Alrighty, we are live here on Bubbs on Sports for another live stream today. It is Thursday. What is it? Thursday, April 6th. So hopefully everybody is tuning in here. Obviously, we'll be talking all things New York Jets today. We'll kind of just wait till everybody gets in here, and we'll get into it. Today, it's been a long off season as a Jet fan, waiting for all these moves to be made, and obviously, the Aaron Rodgers watch continues to be on full effect as we continue to await the final trade, which I think will get done before the draft. Because again, the stuff, the picks that the Jets are going to give up, if the Packers are going to trade him after the draft, they're not going to get any draft capital for this season, obviously. So if they want to get something for this year, whether it's a second round pick, whether the Jets bite and give up their first round pick, obviously 13th overall, I don't think they will. But if they do that, the Packers can get one of those picks this year. They're not, I don't think they're going to wait until, I don't think it's going to be a process. I know it can get dragged out until all the way until June, and certain cap things that affect the Packers if they wait until June 1st and all that stuff. But I just don't see where this is going to take a very long time. So again, we'll wait until all of you guys get in here. We'll be taking your comments and all that good stuff, talking all things Jets, draft, talk Rodgers. You want to talk any position, football in general. We'll be taking all your questions here today as we await everybody coming in here. See, just getting everything posted and up. So it's crazy because you look at the Aaron Rodgers stuff, right? And we'll I guess we can kind of start with that until all of you guys come in here. But you look at the Aaron Rodgers situation, and the whole going all the way back to when he made his decision on McAfee. And it's funny because you look at that moment there, and us as Jet fans, you kind of feel like that's the end of the Rodgers saga. And it feels like it was only just the beginning because you were waiting. There's so many parts to all of this Rodgers stuff, where the first part was you were waiting for Aaron Rodgers to make his decision whether or not he, number one, wanted to play, and number two, if he was going to be for the Jets or the Packers or whatever he wanted to do, or retire, right? That was another option. That was like the first phase. He made that decision. So we got over phase one. Now we're in like this second phase where it's even more excruciating than the first phase. Was pretty rough because every day it was just the same old. At least now, he wants to be a Jet. He's going to be a Jet. I don't think there's a world where Aaron Rodgers isn't a Jet. Like, I don't think out of the middle of nowhere, the New York Jets just, this falls through. And if it does, who do the Jets then go after him? And it's an interesting question to have. It's an interesting conversation to have. But it's funny because phase one was kind of him making his decision. And now phase two is figuring out when in the world this trade's going to get done. And I think from a Packers perspective, you would assume it gets done before the draft, because if they're going to want to bring in draft capital, they're going to want to bring it in. They're going to want to bring it in for this season. They're not going to want to wait until next year. They're going to want to get trading a guy this year. They're going to want to get draft picks for this year, whether that's the Jets' second round pick. They have two of them. Obviously, they got the one back in the trade for Elijah Moore with Cleveland, or in the trading away Elijah Moore to Cleveland. They got, a second round pick and back for that. They have 6 picks this draft. He's a player involved in the deal as well. It'll be interesting. I don't think, to kind of touch on the rumors we heard about the other day involving, the Jets and Aaron Rodgers and the Niners, that the Niners were interested and that Rodgers would be interested in going to the Niners. Look, I don't believe any of that. I don't think any of that's going to happen. Here's my thought process on it. Again, Rodgers has already come out and said, I want to play for the New York Jets. Why would the Packers, from a perspective, from a Packer standpoint, why would they trade Rodgers in the division? Vinny and the Jets coming in here. Thanks for tuning in, Vinny. Good morning, Bubbs. Believe Craig Carton's report that San Francisco is now in the mix for Rodgers is true or total BS. Yeah, I was just kind of about to touch on that. Yeah, I think it's totally untrue. I don't believe any of that. First of all, what I was just about to say is, again, why would the Packers, number one, Rodgers, again, why would the Packers, to start here, why would they trade Aaron Rodgers to somebody in their own conference? The Packers have already kind of said that they don't want to trade Rodgers to a team in their own conference. Why would they now trade Rodgers to the Niners in their own conference in the NFC? Why would they do that? It just doesn't make any sense. And let's be honest here. When you look at the Niners, just quarterback room right now in general, does it really seem like they're going to make a push? I mean, they've got Purdy, they got Trey Lance, they brought in Darnold. I just don't see a world where the Niners are going to come out of the middle of nowhere and say, hey, we want Rodgers. It seems like they're pretty set. I think that was Craig just stirring the pot a little bit, which he does that. I think that was kind of him just trying to attract some views, make headlines. That's what a lot of this stuff is right now. Now, you could look at it the flip side and say, are the Packers pushing this out to try and force the Jets to make a trade now, force them to give up more picks? What is it? It's just such an interesting situation. But no, I don't think it's true, because why would the Packers do that? Again, I don't think the Packers are going to make, it will be interesting to see what they do with Jordan Love. But hypothetically, let's say he goes to the Niners, an NFC Championship game, it's Packers-Niners. Are the Packers going to want to see Aaron Rodgers in the NFC Championship game coming into Lambeau as a road opponent? No, they're not going to want to see that. And there's a possibility that happens. It's low, because I don't think the Packers are going to do a ton with Jordan Love. They didn't do a ton last year with the pieces they got. They lost Lazard. They're probably going to lose some other pieces that are probably going to want to go elsewhere, maybe the Jets, because Rodgers is going to leave. And you have to expect some growing pains in year one with Jordan Love. So the chance of the Packers having a successful first season with Jordan Love is low, but the chance that they do, and if Aaron Rodgers is on the Niners to face the Packers, they just don't want that to happen. So I don't believe any of that. I really don't. It's Rodgers to the Jets. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And I've expressed already here on the show today that they're going to want the Packers, or the Packers, I think, are going to want to get this trade done. So are the Jets, because let's be honest here, they got to move on. Like, this is something, it's April 6th. You got to move on after the draft, in my opinion. Once the draft is over, rookie mini camps start, you still can't have, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's panic time. Like, if a trade doesn't get through by April, or by late April when the draft starts, by the end of April, if we're into March and a trade still hasn't gotten through, I wouldn't necessarily say it's panic time, because, again, you still have that June 1st deadline where the Packers, maybe that's what they're waiting for. Who knows? But I just, from a Packers perspective, why would they continue to wait, miss out on picks this year, trade a guy, and then have to wait next year for those picks? Why would they do that? So it's interesting. Yes, Michael, it is spring break. How's it going? Thanks for tuning in. So yeah, talking all things Rodgers right now, talking obviously Jets, Rodgers, draft. If you got any questions, drop them in the comments down below. Waiting for the Rodgers news to end, waiting for this all to just be finished, and then we can move on and officially name Aaron Rodgers our quarterback, officially have the introductory press conference, which will obviously be hopefully a lot of fun, maybe a little interesting. I guess if I had to give out a time when I'm like, if you're start to panic for a Jets fan, is if you reach like mid-June, and you get into like July and he's still not a New York Jet. That's when I guess you kind of reach the time of panic, the time of, oh gosh, this thing might fall through. But let's be honest here. Douglas even said there is no backup plan right now. And I think that in itself, and again, this was a couple weeks ago that he said that, but that in itself, I think too, is kind of a big teller that if he was genuinely concerned that, if he was genuinely concerned that a deal wasn't going to get done, then he would have, he wouldn't have gone out. Like, Douglas, this thing's going to get done. It's just a matter of when. And hopefully it's sooner rather than later, because this wait is pretty long. If this doesn't happen by the draft, I don't think it's happening. This has to be done before the draft. Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's going to happen for the draft. I think I just don't, again, Packers are going to want picks for this year. I think that's kind of where I see it. But I don't know. I mean, if it doesn't happen by the draft, if we're after the draft, again, my biggest concern would be if we get into mid to, June-ish, and you get into near training camp and you still have this cloud hovering over the quarterback spot, then I'd really start to panic. But again, I'm not. My mindset, I like seriously deep down inside, and again, I don't have any inside information. I'm just a fan, but I just have this feeling that it's going to happen before the draft, or on draft night. It might happen on draft night. This is going to be something that's going to probably be going up until close to the draft. How's it going, Armin? Thanks for tuning in. Drafted 3 weeks from today. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the draft, and obviously, we'll get into some draft talk as well, but the Jets do have other needs, which is funny because we've talked about the quarterback all off season, but there is a lot of other needs with this team. Where do the Jets go with the 13th overall pick in the first round? They've got two second-round picks, obviously, one of those coming over from Cleveland in the Elijah Moore trade. They've got a pick in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round, so 6 picks. They're loaded up, and there's some holes on this roster that they need to fill. I think a lot of Jets fans want offensive linemen in the first round. It's just a matter of which offensive lineman. There's a couple really good guys, obviously. Paris Johnson, one of those guys that the Jets could potentially look at. Peter Skorinski as well. I know John Michael Schmitz, although I think the Jets will probably go veteran at center. Ben Jones potentially, but there's a lot of different things there that could take place here. 49ers have 11 picks this year, no first or second. They have first round next year. It'll be, again, I don't think the Niners are gonna go out and get. I just don't. From the Niners, they got picks, they got pieces, but they're just not going to. I just don't think the Packers are gonna give Rodgers to a team that they're gonna face. They potentially could face in the playoffs, or somebody that they could potentially. Who knows how long Rodgers will play? But let's say again, hypothetically, if the Packers get to the playoffs and they got to face Rodgers in a Niners uniform, I think they're just going to avoid that personally. You need Aaron Rodgers working out with Garrett Wilson, all the receivers. Look what happened last year, Rodgers and the young receivers. Yeah, I mean that's true. Hopefully that's why. Hopefully once he's in here, training, hopefully by training camp he works through that stuff. I'm not overly concerned. I guess I don't know if I'm overly concerned with him working with the receivers. He's obviously got to work with them and stuff, but I trust him and Garrett Wilson getting on the same page. I do. I don't think Garrett Wilson's got experience. He had a very good rookie year last year with Joe Flacco, Chris Streveler, Zach Wilson, and Mike White being his 4 quarterbacks. That saw some time. Obviously, Streveler saw, the second half of a, Thursday night game in which the Jets got ran out of their own building. But still, those were his quarterbacks. So again, he does have to work with them, and that's why if this does leak closer to training camp, that's why I'd really get concerned. But you got to hope that, look, a veteran quarterback, he's a future Hall of Famer. Hopefully he's able to build chemistry with these guys anyway. Look, I don't want to defend Aaron Rodgers for everything. Obviously, last season was a rough season, and there is blame to be put all over the place, but he was playing with a broken thumb. Or I think it was a thumb or a broken finger. So, again, part of it could have been the young receivers and stuff, but there's also a perspective on it where you could say some of the struggles could have been due to the injury and stuff like that. On top of having new receivers not being fully healthy, it was just a little bit of a down year. And look, a down year for Aaron Rodgers was still, if he puts that up, that would still go down as one of the best. He still threw 26 touchdowns, had way over 3,000 yards. We have not seen a Jets quarterback do that. I don't even think the Jets, we watched, just look at the quarterback play. We had to watch Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Chris Streveler, and Mike White. And I'm happy for Mike White getting the deal down in Miami, obviously. But it's interesting. That's why when the schedule comes out next month, you hope that the first few games are Texans Falcons. Yeah, I'm interested to see what the Jets schedule looks like. That's actually something very intriguing this year, because the Jets, I think, the Jets are going to be loaded with primetime games. I think they're going to have, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets start out with they're going to have a Thanksgiving game probably, because they're probably going to play in Dallas on Thanksgiving. So they're probably going to have a Thanksgiving Day game. They have Kansas City, I think, on their schedule as well. They have the Giants. That Giants game, two good New York teams. I could honestly see that being the Sunday night opener. Two New York teams, Giants fresh off a divisional round, Jets with Aaron Rodgers, both teams with legitimate playoff aspirations. I could see that being the opener. And obviously New England too. New England could be a fun watch as well. If the Jets played the Packers this year, though, that would make for excellent headlines. Like that'd be wild to see like a primetime game. Jets Packers in Lambeau. Aaron Rodgers against his former team. I could see the 49ers deal be Kinlaw, Ayuk, 2/3, 99, 100, 2024 first and third for Rodgers. 49ers could sign OBJ if Ayuk is part of the trade. Kinlaw was being shopped. Yeah, look, I mean, the Niners have pieces. They've got talent. The OBJ stuff just is interesting. Again, Armin, I see where, again, the Niners have obviously the pieces. From a Packers perspective, I just don't see it happening. Now, if they're getting all these pieces in return, maybe they pull the trigger and say, you know what, who cares? Rodgers is probably only going to be in the league for a year or two. We got to do what's best for Jordan Love. But I don't know. I don't know. I'd be shocked if he goes to the Niners. Also, Lance or Darnold in the 49ers deal for Rodgers. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that quarterback room plays out. Assuming that's the way it stays in San Francisco. I think that's a great start or a great spot for Darnold. If he stays there, I think that's a great spot for him. Great coach, got some pieces around him. He's working with two other young quarterbacks. Which I guess is a positive. And I mean, I guess that doesn't really mean much, but I think Darnold's in a good spot. Jets going to have 5 primetime games to play the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. I could see Chiefs, Chargers, Eagles all in primetime. Yeah. And the Giants too, potentially. I could see that being potentially a primetime game. Jets are we gotta say goodbye to the 1:00 games. No more 1:00 start. Well, there'll still be a couple 1:00 starts. As you mentioned, Michael, those Texans and Falcons games might be a couple 1:00 starts. Because those games are, especially the Texans, obviously kind of just entering a rebuild. Although they did hire DeMeco Ryans, who's a very good, very solid coach. But those are probably going to be 1:00 games. But other than that, we are not going to see as many 1:00 games this year. You have the Broncos. The Broncos could be an interesting game. I know they struggled last year, but they're, the TV networks are going to want them because they got Sean Payton. They're an intriguing story. Bills obviously are another team as well. If we had the Bengals on our schedule, that would be another like guaranteed primetime game. If we had the Bengals, we don't have the Bengals, but if we did, that would be another guaranteed primetime game. I think we faced the Bengals the past 2 seasons. We faced Denver. It's funny. We've had Denver the past 3 years in a row, and they've all been away. We faced them Salah's first year in Denver. We got crushed. I think that was week 3. I think that was after Zach Wilson's 4 interception game at home against New England. They went to Denver and did nothing. And then they came back home, and I think they beat Tennessee the next week. And that was like Zach Wilson's big breakout game and like his only good game of his career. And then last year we faced Denver, got the win. That was the day where we had Breece Hall, AVT, all got hurt. We got the win, but, come to find out that was kind of our season. And then this year we faced Denver again in Denver. So we faced the Broncos the past 3 years in a row. Lance or Darnold would compete back up with Jordan Love. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what to expect from Jordan Love. Like, I really don't. I think none of us really do. He's 24 years old. He's got drafted 2020 because they traded up for him. I don't really know. I don't even know what to expect from Jordan Love in his first season. Packers would charge extra for 49ers because they're in conference. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on however you feel about the conference stuff. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just don't think the Niners are going to go after Rodgers. I don't. I think not. Yeah, I think the Niners are kind of settled where they're at. They've kind of already. I could be wrong, but I think they've already kind of brought themselves out of the Rodgers sweepstakes a while ago. If I remember correctly, or maybe that was another team that was in early on Rodgers and then kind of broke off late. I think that it could have been the Niners, but look, this is it to me. It's Jets or bust. Like it's Jets or nobody. And it's gonna be awkward. Like let's say Rodgers shows up to training camp in Green Bay. That's gonna be awkward as it's gonna be so awkward. Bubbs, many podcast reports, rumors, Jets, Giants, week 1 on 9/11. Me personally, I don't see it because NFL does not consider it a rivalry. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mentioned that earlier on. I think Jets Giants could obviously be, obviously especially on 9/11 week 1 primetime game. I mean, I would be all for it. I mean, I think Jets Giants. The NFL obviously, I think the NFL probably doesn't see it as a rivalry because both teams have been so bad for so long, and now that they're finally good, the NFL's kind of, I guess, got to think the other way that two teams a team that just got to the divisional round and a Jets team that if they do bring in Aaron Rodgers are legitimate Super Bowl contenders. I think you have to consider it if you're the NFL, but or that could it if I want I think to be there's definitely potential. Or Jets prime. We're at Monday. Ever might. So next question here comes in. Think about the Jets schedule this year, though. Eagles, Chargers, Chiefs, Bills, and Dolphins twice. Denver on the road. It's a hard schedule. Yeah, it's not. There's definitely some tough teams, but to be honest with you, I don't like looking at schedules all the time. I think it's fun to look at and brainstorm of ideas of what your team could potentially do record-wise, but let's be honest here. There's always injuries. You never know when things can happen. You never know when you're going to get a team. You might get them hot. You might get them cold. You might get a team that on paper might look really bad, and then you get them in the middle of a win streak and you get caught looking ahead, So you never know. You might get a team on a short week. Thursday night game, you're at home, you get an upset. Like, again, I look back at the Jets schedule this season. We thought the Lions were going to be an easy win. We thought the Jaguars were going to be easy. We thought beating Seattle was going to be easy. The only thing with Seattle was we were all like, you got to go on the road in Seattle, and that's tough. But and then sure enough, those were all 3 losses, and those all kind of blew our season. So, I'm not saying that the Texans and the Falcons matchups that we got this season are going to turn into those Lions and Jaguars matchups of last year, but there's always last season we looked at the schedule and we looked at the Lions and we checked that off as a win. And now look, last year we lost those games. So, obviously, look, you do have your teams like the Chargers, the Chiefs. Those are all going to be tough games. The Bills twice are going to be tough. The Cowboys, Thanksgiving on the road in Dallas won't be easy. I think we could probably beat Dallas. Again, this is way out. Assuming that game's on Thanksgiving, I don't foresee, I think the NFL is probably going to put that on Thanksgiving. And Denver on the road, look, Denver, I think there's potential there. I don't really know what what Russell Wilson is, though. Was it more Nathaniel Hackett or was it Russell Wilson? Because if Russell Wilson was the issue, Sean Payne coming in is not going to do anything. If Russell Wilson's just not the same guy that he once was, he's not going to do anything. Sean Payton being there, they're not going to be an excellent team. So the Broncos a lot relies on obviously what happens with with Russell Wilson. Prior to the NFL playoffs starting, I predicted Rodgers, the 49ers, and Jets turbulence. Yeah, I think, I mean, a lot of people had Rodgers to the, a lot of people had Rodgers to other teams other than the Jets. I mean, at first, when the offseason first started, I consider Rodgers to the Jets as like a pipe dream. I didn't think it would happen. And sure enough, we're sitting here and we're talking about it hopefully happening this month. Hopefully we enter May with Aaron Rodgers as our quarterback. I mean, I would love if the move happened right now. But yeah, in my opinion, the Vikings loss closed our seasons and the Jag loss was the nail in the coffin. Yeah, unfortunately, I tend to agree, Armand. I mean, I think the Patriots lost too. The second one, both of them were brutal. I know some people have some thoughts about the first one on whether or not, the refs blew the game with the JFM roughing the passer, which, I don't like to blame the game on the refs. I mean, Zach Wilson had the 3 bad interceptions. So, you could always, quarterback play could have been a lot better. The Jets had a lot of opportunities early in that game too. But the second Patriots loss to me was horrible. And I know they bounced back the next week against Chicago. But if they would have just brought in Mike White in the second half of that Patriots game, they would have won that game. I mean, beating New England is huge for the New York Jets, and hopefully they do it this year. If Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, I don't see why they shouldn't beat New England this season. But the New England loss was bad. The Vikings loss was awful. The Berrios drop, which I liked Berrios, but that drop was brutal. The Mike LaFleur had some serious questionable play calling in that game. The Jacksonville loss was, as you mentioned, that was just flat out awful. That was a playoffs on the line. You're at home, prime time. You let a warm weather team come into your own building and just run all over you. That was pathetic. That was embarrassing. And Zach Wilson played like garbage too, which there was a lot of those games. And in the Seattle game too, there was a lot of games. I mean, it's all those games that are included in the 6-game win streak. If you would have told me the Jets' last win was that Chicago Bears game, the Mike White 2.0 game, I guess, if you want to call it, I would have thought you were crazy. But when you're sitting there at 6-3 and you blow the season 7-4, even you're sitting there 7-4 and you finish 7-10, it's bad. That's really bad. So, again, you expect if Rodgers is here, we talk about this all the time. If the Jets had a quarterback last year, if Daniel Jones, we'll take the quarterback from the other team in New York, if Daniel Jones was the Jets quarterback last season, they would have been a playoff team. I mean, good over half the NFL, if we had any of those, give the Jets an average quarterback last year, and they're a playoff team. Instead, we were working with Zach Wilson last season at times was the worst quarterback in the NFL. Some of the throws he made, some of the decisions that he made were horrendous. So it was a frustrating season for sure. So looking at the Jets 2023 opponents here. And again, drop all your questions in the comments down below. We'll be answering them all here. Talking Jets. If you got any draft questions, could talk a little draft, talk a little roster. Where do the Jets need to improve? Is Corey Davis going to be a New York Jet still? Where do all these guys stand? So, going to be talking Jets here for a little bit longer. You guys just keep putting in questions in and continue to talk Jets here. We'll be going probably for another half hour, 45 minutes here. Just talking Jets. So the Jets 2023 opponents this season, again, are their home team. So the Jets actually have 10 home games this year, 7 road games. Because technically they have 10 home games. They have 9 home games, 8 road games, 10 games in MetLife is how I should have worded that, because they play the Giants. It's considered a road game. So they're at MetLife for they have 10 games at MetLife, 7 on the road. The Vegas game is going to be fun for a lot of fans to go out there. You've obviously got the 2 games, Buffalo to Miami to New England. Washington, Eagles, Falcons, Chargers, Chiefs, Texans are your other home games. And then your other road games are the Cowboys, Giants, Broncos, Browns, Raiders. So you'll get Elijah Moore against his former team in the Browns game. And then you'll get Aaron Rodgers against Patty Mahomes against the Chiefs. So definitely the schedule this year doesn't lack storylines. at all. And hopefully we don't witness a situation where we're 6-3, 7-4, and we blow the season and miss the playoffs again. You get Aaron Rodgers, it's not even playoffs. You got to get to the playoffs and you got to win playoff games. You're not bringing Aaron Rodgers just to get you to the postseason. You're bringing Aaron Rodgers to win you playoff games and hopefully get you to the top of the mountain in the NFL, and that's hoisting the Lombardi when all is said and done at the end of this season, which hopefully is what happens. That's what all of Jets fans have been dreaming of, and we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. But we're still waiting on Aaron Rodgers. So I guess we could move into here to a little bit of draft talk. You guys got any draft questions? Drop them in the comments down below. Obviously, again, the Jets find ourselves in a situation where you probably need another offensive lineman at 13th overall pick. I don't think this pick is involved in the Rodgers deal. I don't. I don't foresee the Jets doing that. Probably second, probably maybe this year second. I don't know how the Jets will do it. I just don't think the 13th is probably given up. Maybe that's what the Packers want, but it'll be interesting. We got a question here. So what are the expectations this year be for the Jets, AFC divisional round or AFC championship game? I mean, it depends. I mean, if you win, let's say if the Jets get the first round bye, let's just say that, which probably won't happen. They'll probably play the wild card round. And if they get a first round bye and they lose in their home building in the AFC divisional round, that's pretty bad because that's not even a playoff win for Rodgers. He got you a first round bye, but if you lose in the divisional round, now you're bringing you got to get to the AFC championship game. You have to, because you can't bring in Rodgers to win you a wild card game and lose in a divisional game. You're bringing in Rodgers to get you closest to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, the expectation, the hope is get you obviously to a Super Bowl, and that's, but at least he's got to get to the AFC championship game. You can't, you can't, or if the Jets get a first round bye and you lose in the divisional round, you don't even win a playoff game. You can't do that. You can't win a wild card round, lose in the divisional round, and that be okay. No, that can't happen. Daniel Jones could do that for the New York Jets. You're bringing in Aaron Rodgers. You're bringing in a Hall of Fame quarterback. The expectation changes. You have to get to at least the AFC championship game if you want to consider it at least somewhat of a success. I mean, you're not bringing in Aaron Rodgers to win you a wild card game. You're bringing in Aaron Rodgers to get you closest to a championship and hopefully eventually win a championship. That's what I was thinking. If they lose the AFC championship game this season, then it would be a very successful season. Yeah, I mean, it would be awful. I mean, it would suck if the Jets get all this way to the AFC championship game and lose. That would be awful as a fan. It would be a great run. It would be awful though to sit there in the AFC championship game and lose, because Jets fans, you all know how that feels. Back-to-back years during the Rex Ryan days, going back to the Parcells days of losing against Denver. So losing an AFC championship game is awful, and Jets fans, we're all too familiar with that. But considering what we've been through the past decade, considering we've had no playoffs, we currently have the longest playoff droughts because the Sacramento Kings got to the playoffs in the NBA. So we currently have the longest playoff drought in the active for major American sports. So if you get to the AFC championship game, if you're Rodgers, it gets you pumped up. You're happy about it, at least. Obviously a loss would be awful, but I think if he gets to the AFC championship game and then comes back next season, then it would have to probably be Super Bowl or bust then. But I mean, you can make the argument it's Super Bowl or bust anyway. I mean, this is a guy that's already won a Super Bowl. He's motivated. He wants to prove a lot of people wrong. So, there is also that part of it that maybe there's some people that think it's Super Bowl or bust. You're not going all out for a Hall of Fame quarterback just to get you to an AFC championship game. But, considering where the Jets have been at, if we got to the AFC championship game, that would be a pretty major change in terms of success for the Jets. So, but yeah, I mean, Super Bowl is obviously on the top of all Jets fans' minds when it comes to bringing in Rodgers in the hopes of bringing in Rodgers. But again, I mean, look, bringing in Rodgers gives you a great shot, but the AFC is still loaded. You still have Herbert. You still have Josh Allen to worry about. You still have Joe Burrow. You still have Patrick Mahomes. You still got all these other teams. Let's say Denver, Sean Payton figures it out with Russell Wilson. They're a threat as well, especially very solid defensive team in Denver. So they're a team too to look out for as a potential, team that you might have to go through in the postseason. That's not going to be easy. So the AFC is tough. It is. Now, I don't know how it's going to all pan out in Baltimore, but let's say Lamar Jackson is back in Baltimore. He gives them a chance. I mean, they almost won a playoff game last year without Lamar. They almost beat Joe Burrow last year without Lamar Jackson. So the Ravens do, if Lamar Jackson's back. If Lamar Jackson's not back, forget about the Ravens. I know they almost beat him without Lamar, beat the Bengals without Lamar, but the Ravens are not going to be a threat if they don't have Lamar. But still, you're looking at the Bills. You still have the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Bengals, potentially the Broncos as 3, 4, 5 other teams that are big threats. So that's why, as much as bringing in Rodgers would be a huge win, there's still a lot of other work to do. But back to some of the NFL draft talk. When you look at the Jets, I'm actually expecting a very big year this year from Becton. I think he's going to have I'm really super excited to see what he can do. But obviously, there's still some other needs on the offensive line. When you look at the center spot, where do the Jets go there? I think, again, Rodgers, I don't think is going to probably want a young rookie center, which would probably take John Michael Schmitz out of the equation. Obviously, the center from Minnesota. But there's a lot of other tackles out there. Paris Johnson, one of the bigger names from Ohio State. Peter Skorinski from Northwestern is another guy to look out for at the potential 13th overall pick. Some people have John Michael Schmitz falling in the second round, which I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. It's an interesting draft to see if guys fall. Some people have talked about Michael Mayer from Notre Dame, the tight end, where, if he falls, do the Jets go after him? I don't think he'll fall to the second round. I just don't think he'll fall to 42 overall, but it's a fun conversation to have considering you add another tight end to this room. Like, it'd be crazy. Conklin, Uzama, Rucker, and you bring in the guy from Notre Dame. The Jets, I believe, they bring in Broderick Jones for a visit. Another guy out of Georgia, another offensive lineman. Him, Paris Johnson, Peter Skorinski right now seem like some of the main, I guess, favorites. Some of the main guys that the Jets could be potentially looking at when it comes to the offensive line spot. The tackle spot specifically. But yeah, you still need that depth. You still need that other piece. If, let's say Becton is healthy and ready to go, you still need that other guy. And if Becton's not ready to go, you especially need another tackle on this line. And they still need a center. Now, again, I do think Ben Jones will probably end up being the center for the Jets. I think eventually, once this Rodgers news gets done or deal gets done, hopefully soon, as we've talked about all day today. I don't want to keep repeating myself. But I think you'll probably see he's got connections with the Jets coaching staff, was a Pro Bowler in 2022, has been in the league since 2012. He's a veteran, 33 years old. He'll be 33 or 34 in July. So a guy that's been in the league, got experience. I just think Rodgers is going to want that. And a guy that's had a very good, had a very solid past couple seasons. So he's a guy that I think personally will probably be the Jets center. I think it's kind of just a waiting game now. But I wouldn't be against drafting a guy like a John Michael Schmitz. I wouldn't be. I just don't think the Jets are probably going to do that. Another position too is safety. Is how do the Jets approach the safety spot? Where so far they brought in Chuck Clark, which I like to move. Box safety, very similar kind of guy in terms of a Whitehead, big hitter, can do a whole lot of everything, could play pretty much every position, could play a little corner, could play a little lineman, could play a little linebacker, D-line, could play a little linebacker as well, can do a little bit of everything. Gives you that flexibility, plays with a lot of energy. I like the move, but I'm still think the Jets are lacking that, they're still lacking that coverage, athletic, fast type safety where you can jump routes, obviously, and kind of have that type of guy that can force turnovers, interceptions, stuff like that. I still feel like the Jets are missing that a little bit. Again, like the Chuck Clark move, but I'm still looking for that athletic type safety that can bring in some interceptions and just be that younger athletic type guy in the secondary, which right now I just don't. The Jets, again, Whitehead's good, but he's not good in coverage. And he could deliver some big hits, but he's not good in coverage. Chuck Clark, not a big guy in coverage. Can deliver some big hits, gives you a lot of flexibility. Still waiting for that coverage safety. I know Brian Branch from Alabama has been in the conversation. Some people compare him to like a Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's a good coverage safety. Very good, very good in terms of deflecting passes, defending passes, breaking up passes, athletic guy, fast, quick guy that can just jump routes and, jump passes and be that guy that the Jets are still kind of looking for from Bama. Now, I don't know. You look at some mock drafts, they have him going higher in the first round. Some have him dropping lower in the first round. Some have him drop him completely out of the first round. Again, the Jets currently stand where they have the 42nd, 43 overall pick in the second round. Now, that could change based on if Rodgers comes here. But let's say they keep one of those picks. Does Brian Branch fall to them? Do they take Brian Branch earlier? Do they trade up? How do they do that? I don't know. I think it's just a tough spot in terms of when he's going to get drafted and where the Jets have pick-wise. But I would not be against bringing in a type of safety. People have also talked about bringing in another receiver. Maybe a Jackson Smith, in the Jigba from Ohio State, which would be interesting because the Jets, not that the Jets don't need receivers, but if you bring in another receiver, you would assume Corey Davis is probably automatically out because you have McCall Harmon, you have Garrett Wilson, you have Alan Lazard. You would assume probably Corey Davis is out unless if they include Corey Davis in some trade. But what are your thoughts? Drop your questions down in comments down below. Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. In live chat, we'll be answering them all. What are your thoughts on kind of where the Jets draft-wise? Who do you want the Jets to draft? Any potential names that you have on your board? I don't want the Jets to draft a safety in the first round. Remember Calvin Pryor? Yeah, I do remember Calvin Pryor. Would you take a second round safety potentially if Brian Branch falls or one of these other guys, in the second round? I know there's another guy from Alabama. He's a safety. And I don't think the Jets are going to draft a safety in the first round. Even last year, the guy from Notre Dame was in some, that was some conversations. I want offensive linemen personally in the first round. I think that's the Jets' biggest need there. Second, third round, you want to take a safety. I think Jordan Battle is the other one from Bama. That could potentially be a safety option for the Jets. Second round, maybe if no O-line center is there for us. Yeah. And then who knows? Who knows how many second round picks we'll have if the Jets do move on. Right now, obviously, we have 2. They have to trade one of those. We'll be left with 1 potentially. But yeah, I'm not round 3 potentially safety 2. Armand as well, I think could also be an option. I'm just looking, from my perspective, I still think the Jets need that athletic type safety that can force some turnovers, which the Jets don't do much of. Jets need to force more turnovers this year. last season, I mean, first of all, they need to figure out how to recover a fumble. They force fumbles and can't recover them, which we saw a lot last season with this team. Defensive tackle, Kalijah Cansey interests me in the first, second round. Yeah. Defensive line, too, is another guy. And I know the Jets are bringing in Al Woods, I think it is, from Seattle for a visit, who's interior defensive lineman, another guy that gives the Jets some depth. They obviously brought back Solomon Thomas. But yeah, defensive lineman too. I'm not against bringing in, obviously, a defensive lineman. A couple guys in the defense. D-line, safety, potentially some potentially the linebacker as well. The Jets could target. But yeah, the defensive line, yeah, they need some interior, defense line depth. I'm hoping that a Quinnen Williams deal gets done soon. I want that to get done. I think it's probably going to drag out a little bit longer. Probably once this whole Rodgers situation. I really feel like once this whole Rodgers situation is done, we're going to see a whole lot get done with this Jet team, in terms of signings and any other moves that the Jets want to make. But look, they got 6 picks. They're loaded up, and they've got a first round pick, obviously 2 seconds. They have some pieces again defensively. As much as we look at the defensive side of the ball and say, man, it was really good last year, they do need to improve the defensive line depth, because we even saw last season without Quinnen Williams, they were not the same. And bringing Solomon Thomas was nice, bringing him back. Obviously, Al Woods coming in for a visit. Interior defensive line, offensive line, linebacker, safety, I think are some of the Jets' bigger needs, I guess, when it comes to the draft and where this roster currently stands. It'll be interesting to see, though. I was just kind of thinking. Let's see here. I could see the Jets trading down from 13 to gain more picks. Yeah, I could see that too. And I talked about that a little bit earlier. I could see them, trading back, to bring in more assets, especially if they're not in love with the guy at 13. If some of these offensive linemen potentially go earlier on, or they just feel like they might drop, I could definitely see Douglas, trading back. I always feel like every year, us as fans, I guess we always potentially think about trading back, gathering more picks. Maybe this is, Douglas has shown that he's not afraid to trade up, which is what he did last year to bring in Jermaine Johnson, obviously. He's not afraid to do that. Also, what did he do? I think he traded up to get was it AVT too? I think it was. I think it was AVT that he traded up for as well. So he's not afraid to trade middle of the draft. Trade back, gather more picks. I'd be okay with that. Armin, what are your thoughts on potentially taking a receiver? Maybe later rounds, maybe not. Again, probably not first round, but potentially bringing in a guy maybe third round, mid rounds, bringing some depth. Yeah, trade up for AVT. Yeah, AVT and Brees, we need them back this year. I was talking earlier about that Denver game. That was rough. Both those guys down. That was the start of a collapse. That was the start of the collapse for the New York Jets. Was that Denver game where both AVT and Brees Hall went down. But look, Douglas, I mean, I trust Douglas. Whatever he decides to do, I like Marvin Mims would be a nice selection. Yeah, I'm not I would take a receiver for this team. I think obviously, especially depending on what what is Corey Davis's future? I still don't know. I don't know if he's going to still be with the Jets. If that was just Saleh just at the meeting saying, "Oh, we like Corey Davis," he went out of his way to say that stuff. I don't know if that's Saleh just trying to hype him up so then they can go ahead and trade him. He's not gonna talk badly about the guy if they're trying to trade him. He's gonna try to hype him up as much as he can. So I don't know what Corey Davis is, but I wouldn't mind bringing in another younger receiver as well. But look, I think I trust Douglas. I do. I think he's had some bad drafts. 2020 draft was ugly, really ugly, especially or a 2021 draft, I should say. Especially with Elijah Moore now getting traded. Zach Wilson's looks basically like a bust. I know there's a small amount of people that still think, Zach Wilson can learn from Rodgers and improve, but other than that, I had a very good draft last year that basically saved his job, bringing in guys like Breece Hall, bringing in Jermaine Johnson, bringing in all those pieces. I mean, that draft saved him. I mean, that bringing in Garrett Wilson, he brought in Sauce Gardner, bringing in 2 offense and defensive rookies of the year. I mean, that's phenomenal job. So I trust Douglas here. I do. It's interesting because they're not major needs. The offensive line's a pretty big need, but other than that, all these other picks I feel like are kind of more complementary to just help, boost some of these other positions, such as linebacker, such as receiver, especially if the Jets do move on from Corey Davis. Cedric Tillman, Mims, but AD Terry would be nice late round selections for the Jets. Yeah, the Jets, they got 4th, 5th, and 6th, 112. They got 143, and they've got 207. Round 3, I could see potentially being that maybe that kind of linebacker safety potentially round. I could also see them waiting, round 3. This isn't a extreme. I feel like this isn't a extremely heavy I don't feel like this is extremely heavy NFL or NFL receiver draft. I don't know why I called it the NFL receiver draft, but I don't feel like it's extremely dominant when it comes to receivers. This draft, I think there's obviously some good names, and there's obviously some guys like Jackson Smith and Najigba is one of the better ones, but I don't think it's like a dominant draft by any means in terms of some of the receivers. But that's why I think you could wait mid to late rounds and still find some solid receivers. Jets picks this year, 13, 42, 43, 112, 143, and 207. Yep. 6 picks this year. Could change. And then we'll see. I guess the goal is next year to not have a pick, or to, that with Rodgers potentially have a pick much later on. The Jets they have a successful season next season. Hopefully they're not picking anywhere near the top 10. 6 picks. Douglas has got to obviously make the most of them. Some of the other receivers, Jordan Addison from USC is another guy. As you mentioned, Armin Cedric Tillman, Tennessee. There's definitely some guys. Jordan Addison from USC. He's intriguing. He went to Pitt, I think, and then he transferred to USC, which next year that's going to be big. Caleb Williams. Everybody's going to be all aboard the Caleb Williams train. Teams would be tanking. Would not surprise me if at 13, 42, or 43, JD trades down and adds a 3rd and a late 4th. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to add some late round picks, especially if they don't love who they're working with at 13. And I always say, like, you can always find you can always find depth, solid O linemen in some of the later rounds. They're always going to be there. You can always add those pieces. I doubt this, but if Addison fell to 43, I would take him. Yeah, I like Jordan Addison a lot. He had a very good year last year, obviously, with Caleb Williams, really elevated him at USC. Jackson Smith, Najigba, Jordan Addison are some of the, the bigger guys. I think, that's what I thought. Pitt to USC. I remember it was a big deal. It was basically like he was a free agent. He was just looking for the most NIL. But yeah, Jackson Smith and Jig was probably the number. He's going to get drafted probably in the 1st round. Jordan Addison, I'd be shocked if he fell as well to 43, especially because it's a little bit of a thinner receiver draft. Teams are going to want to jump on the top guys very early. So it'll be interesting to see how this all ends up playing out. It's just fun not talking about drafting a quarterback, because usually every 2 years we're talking about drafting a quarterback. This year we're talking about trading for a quarterback, so that's it's a nice change. It's going to be interesting to see who goes number one. Is it Bryce Young? Is it CJ Stroud? What do the Panthers do after giving all that up? And I love that move for the Bears, bringing in DJ Moore, getting a ton of other picks to build around Justin Fields. I love that move for the Bears, rather, not Bills. Bears. I love that move for them to trade back. Panthers give up a ton. I don't really like it for the Panthers. You're bringing in, again, you're getting the top picks at the quarterbacks. There's a real good chance, especially with what the Colts owners said, Jameer say the other day, about the Colts, how there's a good chance they're going to take a quarterback as well. So we're looking at a situation where we're probably looking at first four picks are probably all quarterbacks. A lot different than last year's draft, obviously, where we barely saw quarterbacks go off the board in the top 10, top 15-ish. But Anthony Richardson, too, is another guy where a lot of teams is like, could Tennessee possibly land him? Levis is another guy. Does he fall to 4, 3? He's a guy that's kind of all over. Does he go 1, which could potentially happen? I'm on Tankathon, and they have the Jets in a 3-round mock draft for selecting Broderick Jones, Drew Sanders, and Antonio Johnson. Yeah, that's how I could see it going. I could see them going O-line, linebacker, safety. I could see it. In my opinion, believe Panthers select Stroud. Yeah, what I'm hearing is, like, I've been hearing so many reports that inside the organization, it's kind of mixed. Like, half of them want Stroud, the other half want Bryce Young. To be honest, I mean, it doesn't. I don't really care what happens, but I don't know. I mean, they're both really good. I think I believe Stroud and Levis will go 1 and 2. Yeah, a lot of people are high on Levis. Levis and Richardson, I think, are getting a lot of hype. I believe the Titans trade up to 3 and select Richardson. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that definitely potentially happening. For the Titans, especially with the way Malik Willis played last year, played like garbage. He was awful. They could bring in definitely another quarterback, but yeah, I mean, if I had to probably predict, it's probably going to be Bryce Young. If I had to predict, Bryce Young will probably go 1. 2 would probably either be Levis or Stroud. 3, Richardson, and then whoever doesn't go 2 will probably go 4 to Indy. That would be probably my guess. If I had to guess on how those first 4 go. And then after that, I'm looking at a mock draft right now from CBS. They have Paris Johnson going to the Raiders, which would obviously take him out of the running for the Jets. They have the Bears getting Jackson Smith-Njigba, which I think would be an excellent move for Chicago, because you already added DJ Moore. And if you add another receiver, a young guy to that position with Justin Fields, you went from no receivers to having 2 really solid pieces in Chicago. I would love that move for Chicago. That'd be a great move. So in this mock draft, they have the Jets going D-line 13th overall. They have Peter Skorinski going 15 to Green Bay. Look, offensive line, they're going to be there, obviously, for the Jets at 13. It's whether or not the Jets feel they could trade back, gather more picks, and get some of these guys later on. It'll be interesting for sure to see how the Jets approach this. But I think the most realistic way the Jets, do this is probably they go they go offensive line, not Richardson, offensive line, linebacker, safety, or offensive line, safety, receiver, offensive line, linebacker. They're probably going to go line, first round if they don't trade back, because that's one of their biggest needs here. So, and we'll be wrapping up soon. If you guys got any more questions, we'll be going here probably for another couple minutes, kind of winding things down here. So if you guys got any other questions, drop them in the comment section down below. Obviously, we'll stay tuned. Got a lot more content coming up on this channel. I will have this up in podcast form on In the Trench with Gang Grid on the Apple Podcast. So if you're interested, you could check this out as well, the replay. If the Bears select the Jigba, they have a solid 4 receiver core with Moore, Mooney, Claypool, and the Jigba. Yeah, a lot better than last year. A lot better than they've had the entire Justin Fields tenure. Justin Fields, it's been rough what they've given him. They haven't given him much in Chicago, and that's why I really like that trade for them, because they still have they still get 9th overall pick. They still get a top 10 pick. They get DJ Moore, who's a very solid receiver, and they have an opportunity to draft another receiver with that pick. So they could technically turn the number 1 pick into the Jigba. They already turned it into DJ Moore and the Jigba. They could turn that into 2 receivers that are huge pieces moving forward for Justin Fields. So, and I know, again, the Panthers, they have Frank Wright. They got a very good offensive-minded coach. You assume the quarterback's going to go there and do well, but, it doesn't – giving away one of your better receivers when you're going to go draft the quarterback isn't great. And, again, the Panthers can always make moves here and there, but now they did – I believe they did add, obviously – they did add Thielen. They have, DJ Chark, I know, Terrace Marshall. They've got some guys. I think they got Laviska Shenault, who's spent some time with Jacksonville in his career. So the guys still got some pieces, but they also added Miles Sanders. But, man, the Bears, from a Bears perspective, that is a very, very good trade. Bubbs, if you're not busy tonight, Jets Turbulence at 8 p.m. Tyson will be joining us. If you can call in, link will be in the chat. Yeah, I saw that you guys were having him on. Tyson's obviously awesome from Let's Talk Jets Radio. Yeah, I'll try if I can hop on. I will. I'll definitely be watching. I'll definitely be tuned in. If I can call in, I will. So 8 p.m. For those of you that are interested in checking that out, be sure 8 p.m. Jets Turbulence on YouTube. You can all go check that out. Armin, appreciate you hanging out. If you got anything, any other questions, we'll be closing up the stream here in the next couple of minutes. And and then scheduling wise, again, it's kind of the off season, so I plan on doing maybe some more of these live streams as the off season continues to roll on. Once the Aaron Rodgers trade gets done, we'll have a stream on it. Hopefully it gets done one of these years. Hopefully this offseason, not next offseason. The wait continues for the Aaron Rodgers saga to officially be put to close. So I'm on right now. I'm looking at, man, some of these Mike McCagnon drafts. I'm on NFL mock draft database right now. And my gosh, some of these Mike McCagnon drafts are just horrible. I mean, look at this one. 2017 draft class. Chad Hansen, Jordan Leggett, Elijah McGuire. He did draft Jamal Adams, which was good, and then it wasn't good. Marcus May got the off-the-field issues. I mean, geez, some of these were just I don't know how they keep letting this guy draft. 2018 draft classes was ugly too. Trenton Cannon, Perry Nickerson, Chris Herndon, Nathan Shepard, who wasn't horrible, I guess, and then Darnold was a bust. I mean, these were Fadakasi was pretty good, but some of these drafts that McCagnon put together were horrid. My Mets suck, and thank God for the rain today. Postponed their home opener. Yeah, the Mets are not playing good baseball. The Yankees with a nice win yesterday. Keep winning series. Their game also got postponed today, although the weather actually does not look bad. The radar yesterday I know looked ugly in Queens. But I think today I don't think it looks as bad. I think it cleared up. I know they were supposed to get thunderstorms. I think thunderstorms were supposed to hit the entire tri-state area, um, which is why the Yankees obviously down in Baltimore, but Yankees got postponed too. So they got rescheduled tomorrow. I guess the Mets did as well. But yeah, the Mets are struggling. 19-0 to combine 2 games. And then yesterday they lose on the walk-off, which actually hurt me because I have Ottavino in fantasy baseball. So he got me -8 because he let up the walk-off homer, but I'm still winning by a lot, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, the Mets have issues. And again, it's only 7 games in. Maybe I take back what I said, but it's only 7 games in, but there are concerns. There are definitely concerns about the Mets. These losses are ugly. Like 19-0 in 2 games combined, and then losing on a walk-off. It's rough. I'm surprised, in my opinion, Buck is an overrated manager. I was just about to talk about that. I'm surprised that the Mets, or Buck, I should say, not the Mets. I'm surprised Buck went with David Robertson in the 8th yesterday and Ottavino in the 9th. I know he wanted Robertson to get because I was watching the Yankee game, and then when that game was over, I turned on the Met game, so I was able to see the end of the Met game. Because the games now, I'm loving the pitch clock. The games now are like 2 hours and 30 minutes. Yesterday's Yankee game, I think it was like started at 1 and ended at like 3. Was it like 3:30, 3:40-ish? It was like a 2 hour and 40-minute game. I love the game, but yeah, I don't get why using Robertson in the 8th and Ottavino in the 9th. Yeah, I didn't understand that either. And I know he did that last year sometimes with Edwin Diaz, where he'd put Diaz in the 8th to face teams best, the heart of the order. And I know that's what he tried to do yesterday with David Robertson. But Ottavino's not a closer. David Robertson's your closer. You can't get, when you don't have Edwin Diaz, like, you can't get too fancy. You just got to roll with it. Yeah, I mean, if this season he should be fired. Yeah. A lot high expectations. If the Mets would to miss the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of turmoil in that organization for sure. Because you have Verlander, you have Scherzer. Scherzer looks bad, really bad. Scherzer looks ugly. And there's genuine concern there because this is going back to last year with Scherzer, going back to the wild card series against the Padres. His last 4 starts really as a Met have not been good. Even his first start opening day, it's not ace-like material. It's not how much he's getting paid good enough. It's good enough for an average pitcher, but not dominant Scherzer. They need to call up the kids. Yeah. I don't know why Beatty, I know he obviously had an injury. I think it was the thumb, and he's day to day. But I don't know why Beatty wasn't up from the gun. I don't know why. Him and Mark Vientos are 2 guys that had excellent springs and both get sent down, and Alvarez too. It's interesting. I understand your frustration because the Yankees, for the entire spring, we've been telling them to call up Volpe, and for a while there, it didn't seem like they do it, and they have. And the Yankees are playing well. Now, there's still those games like they had. When was it? They had it. What was that? The second game of the series? Yeah, the 4-1 game. So on Tuesday night, there's still those games like they had on Tuesday night where they lose 4-1 and they hit a solo home run in the 9th by DJ, and that's it. Like, there's still those type of games where if they don't hit home runs, they go down and they don't score. But for the most part, the Yankees have done a good job of hitting with runners in scoring position and stuff like that. And they've done a pretty good job. Beatty's day to day with thumb inflammation. Yeah. Buck loves his vets. Yeah, it's interesting for sure with the way things are going in Metland. It might be better off that they had a day off today because who knows how the fans would have reacted. Give them a day off, get back tomorrow. Fans today might have been a little hostile, even though it's home opener and home opener always opening day, home opener always gives you all this optimism. But I think Mets fans still might have been a little hostile. Give him a day off to breathe a little bit. Tomorrow, maybe you get a little bit of a re-energized, more positive crowd. I don't know. It's not good though. You get the Marlins again tomorrow. So I guess if you want to think positive, you already taken 3 or 4 against Miami. The question is, are the Mets this bad or the Brewers just really good? I think the Mets they've got issues, but the Brewers they're 5-1 out of the chute. Brewers are pretty solid team. Pitching, hitting, they've definitely got some pieces that we've talked a couple days ago on the live stream. So, but yeah, again, if you guys got any more questions, we'll probably close things out here. We've been going for an hour 10. Probably close things out here about hour 15, maybe 5 more minutes. We've touched on a lot of Jets topics, draft. We've touched on Rodgers, talked little receiver, talked little safety, talked pretty much everything. All things New York Jets we got to today. Closing it out with a little bit of baseball talk as well. To close things out here as we await for the NFL draft, which will be obviously starting up April 27th. They'll be going all the way through the 29th. And the mock drafts are in full session. It's mock draft season for sure because you got all the mock drafts. You got, mock draft 2.0, mock draft 3.0, mock draft 4.0, all that good stuff. No Sandy this time for the Marlins. Mets need to take advantage. Yeah, Sandy Alcantara, he had a shutout the other day, I think. It's a 90. That guy's unbelievable. He's one of the best. I mean, the guy's just unreal. He's just crazy. Yeah, it was a 9-inning, 3-hit, 5K strike game against the Twins. I want to see how many pitches he threw. I don't think he threw many pitches. Yeah, he threw. If I can find the box score here. Yeah, Sandy Alcantara, he threw 100 pitches in 9 innings. Efficient. Phenomenal pitcher. So luckily the Mets won't have to deal with him for Mets fans' perspective. As a Yankee fan, I do sometimes enjoy seeing the Mets lose. Sorry, Armin. Yeah, he had a complete game shutout in 1 hour and 57 minutes. Yeah, it's crazy. So that game went on hour 57, and the Guardians-Seattle game from opening weekend, I think it was Friday night of last week. It was like the second game of the season. Like 2 hours and like 2 minutes. Games are crazy. I love it. I didn't like it at first, but I love it now. It's awesome. Boy, did the Cards get fleeced in that deal. Yeah. Sandy Alcantara is just, he's unbelievable. Alcantara, I think is how you say it. Either way, he's unbelievable. Phenomenal pitcher for sure. A Cy Young winner last year, one of the best in the game, really making a name for himself. He's just 27. He's going to be in the league for a whole lot longer, especially if he continues to pitch like this. He's going to get a big payday along the road. If he hasn't gotten it already, I could look at his contract here. I don't think he's gotten a 5-year, $56 million deal right now. It will. Oh, so he did get a big payday. He's making $11 million about per year. So not really. They could probably even give him more. He's club option in 2027. He'll be a free agent in 2028. So Sandy Alcantara is a pretty dominant pitcher for sure, without a doubt. Coles look very good as well. Those are two big aces so far that have looked really, really good for the MLB for the Yankees and then the Marlins as well. The one that sucks is he will not be Marlin for life. Yeah, Marlins tend to be cheap. I see where you're coming from. He probably won't be. We'll probably go somewhere else. He will not be Marlin. I guess that's a good thing though. If he's not a Marlin for life, I guess that's a good thing for the Mets. I got to deal with him. If he goes to another team in the NL East, though, that'd be bad. You put out Contra on I don't know what team needs pitching that's got an insane offense. Trying to think. If you put out Contra, even though I think when the Phillies have Nola and Wheeler, they've just gone off to a brutal start, the Phillies. The Yankees have pitching, they've got offense. And you put Alcantara on like the Padres, or they've got pitching, but obviously Joe Musgrove's missing some time to start the year. They've got an insane offense. But you put Alcantara on, it would be crazy what they do. All right. So, all right, Armin coming in with another draft question. After this, I'll close things out. So, last draft question. Here we go. So, if Jalen Hyatt is there at 42 or 43, should the Jets draft him, and would you select him? Whoops, go back. I'll answer that one in a second. Yeah, I would 42 or 43. Obviously, out of Tennessee, another guy that is not extremely tall. I only think he's like 6 feet. I think, not an incredibly tall guy at all. He's fast. I think he a 4.4 40-yard dash. I think he ran. I like Jalen Hyatt. I do. I if he's there, I would take him. I think would be a solid piece for the offense. I'm all for bringing in more receiver pieces, more guys to bring around Rodgers. My biggest question is, I guess, taking receivers in the draft is like, are the Jets going to do that, knowing that maybe that's not best fit for Rodgers? Like, would they still do that? So that's my one thing there that maybe would hold the Jets up on potentially taking a receiver there. But yeah, if he's there at 42 or 43, I would. Probably I'd probably see the Jets maybe going. I don't know if the Jets are going to go linebacker in the second round, safety maybe. I don't know how the Jets are going to approach it in the second round. It'd be interesting. But yeah, if he's there, I take him. There's a couple guys, receivers potentially that could fall. That if they're there, I would jump on them right away. Jalen Hyatt being one of those guys. And if you look at actually NFL.com, they compare him to Deshaun Jackson. So a smaller, extremely speedy guy that can go deep type receiver. Some of the things, he very good vertical route runner. Finished second in the FBS with 15 receiving touchdowns. Just 6 foot, fast, extremely good deep, which fits Aaron Rodgers' type game. Put him on Dodgers and Braves would be wild. Yeah, you're right about that. On Tankathon, their mock draft has Hyatt going at pick 45 to the Packers. Yeah, so I mean, if he's there, take him. It'd be funny. It's like you get a chance to play for the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. That sounds so weird. You get a chance to play for the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, or Jordan Love and the Packers. Jalen Hyatt would probably rather play for the Jets. So if he's there, definitely take him. He's one of those guys that, like, if Jordan Addison and Jackson Smith-Njigba go in the first round, he's probably like the next best guy there. There's 2 guys I think from Tennessee, I think that are out there. There's Jalen Hyatt, and then there's one other guy I know that was from Tennessee. I think there's also Quentin Johnson too. I think he's TCU is another receiver that potentially could be in play for some of the receiver needy teams. I think there's 2 guys though that were from Tennessee. Jalen Hyatt, one of them. And then I thought there was one other one. Maybe I'm wrong. Thought there was one other guy. I'm looking on a list here of some draft prospects. Was there more than one? Yeah, Cedric Tillman. Yeah, Tillman. Yep, Armin. Yeah, I think you mentioned him early on. Yeah, Tillman. He's the other guy from Tennessee. So 2 of them, but I think a lot of the list have Jalen Hyatt ranked higher. It's unbelievable. He's 6 foot, ran a 4.4 40-yard dash. He's actually kind of similar, the overall rating of 88.7. So according to NFLDraftBuzz.com, the way they rank these guys, so they have Quentin Johnson at 1. Jackson Smith-Njigba 2, Jalen Hyatt 3. They actually have Hyatt ranked higher than Jordan Addison. Josh Downs, another guy from North Carolina. Taller, more lengthier guy if the Jets want to look at. Lower, very length, like got a lot of length and very good speed deep. A.T. Perry went to Wake Forest. So he's a guy that if the Jets want length, although they have plenty of length between Lazard and Garrett Wilson, they don't really need that. They kind of need, like, if you wanted to bring another, like, speedy McCall Harmon type player, Jalen Hyatt's that kind of guy. But yeah, I'd be okay with taking Hyatt at number 42 or 43, especially if some of these mock drafts obviously have him falling behind some of the bigger guys like Njigba and Jordan Addison and some guys like that. Looking at the receivers, there's a lot of receivers. There's not a ton of height when it comes to this receiver draft class. Like some of the top 10, top 12 receivers in the draft, a lot of them are a couple of them are under 6 foot. A lot of them are like 6 foot, 6'1", not a ton of height. A lot of speed and quickness in this draft when you look at some of the receivers. So it'll be a fun draft. I'm all for bringing weapons. I am. I like last year when the Jets drafted Garrett Wilson. I know there was a lot of fans that were frustrated. Not frustrated. That's not the right word to use. Confused or kind of, I guess, a little lost as to where they were going to find their edge rusher. Sure enough, they get in Jermaine Johnson. But I was all for bringing Garrett Wilson. I just wanted as many weapons as you can get for the quarterback. Bring in offensive line. Bring in a receiver. Give me weapons. Load up the offense. And give Aaron Rodgers what he wants. That's how I see it. So, yeah, that will pretty much wrap things up. So, thank you, Armand. Really appreciate you hanging out again. Second live stream in a row. Well, not in a row technically, because we did the other one Monday. It's Thursday. So, but appreciate you hanging out. Always appreciate all the support. We plan on doing a little bit more live streams. I'll have this up as well for those of you that may have missed it or just came in late. I'll have this up on my Apple Podcast, In the Trench with Gang Green logo in the top. What is it? Top left, I guess. If you're watching this, it's in the top right? So, yeah, if you want to check that out, replay it, hour, 20 minutes plus, get some content on there. And, yeah, I have a lot more of these live streams coming. Might have a couple other live streams. Might have a couple other more live streams talking maybe general New York sports. I'll probably have a video up tomorrow, probably on this channel, probably just the regular video. And then maybe some other live streams. Obviously, Monday, I'll have my Yankee live stream up, so I'll do talking everything Yankees, baseball topics as well are all welcomed. And, yeah, plan on mixing in some other Jets live streams, some all New York sports live streams, Rangers, playoffs, Nets, 1 win away and a Heat loss away from clinching a playoff spot as well. Knicks are already in. So there's a lot going on in New York sports. I'll have a lot more content coming. And again, Rodgers deal hopefully gets done soon. Hopefully, we get something done before the draft or on draft night. And as the draft gets closer, we'll continue to have more content pumped out. So no problem, Bubbs. Gets me through the day. Have my job. Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Armin, or thanks for hanging out, Armin. Really appreciate it. Glad I can get you through the workday. I guess it must have been. It's funny because we were all very unproductive at work during the Aaron Rodgers wait when we were all refreshing Twitter for hours. That was long, but hopefully we now get an answer on Rodgers soon. So appreciate you all hanging out. Thanks a lot, Armin. Really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun talking Jets. And yeah, as always, hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching.